How are micro level decisions impacting my business? And how am I paying down my own ignorance debt? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvando. Some of you call me EJ. I'm the guy on social media to build a legacy for his kids and pass on all the life and business lessons to each and every one of you. I started my social media career or hobby, whatever you want to call it, roughly 4 months ago. And I made a promise to myself that I would do my best in documenting my life and passing on all the life and business lessons to whoever is interested. And I just realized a couple of days ago that what I'm probably missing is a better connection between my weekly and daily activities and the lessons I've been able to draw from them. So welcome to my first ever weekly recap episode, where I'm trying to summarize what happened this week and draw some conclusions out of it that would be easy to understand. This week I'm going to talk about two things: micro and macro level decisions and ignorance debt. Let's start with the micro and macro. So topic number one, micro/macro level decisions. What do I mean by that? All decisions in life can be roughly put in these two categories. What is a macro level decision? A European central bank or a Fed raising or having an impact on interest rates, for instance. That triggers down and has several influences, impacts on daily lives when it comes to people borrowing money or businesses doing the same. Also, a company changing its strategy has a lot of team level, action level impacts. So those are two macro level decisions that trigger down. And macro decisions always have an impact on a micro level, but not necessarily the other way around. But I think the micro level decisions and their so-called hidden impacts are the secret that we often forget. What is a micro level decision? Me going to buy a t-shirt would be a micro level decision, or a team manager implementing a new weekly reporting method or requirement to his or her employees. Those are all micro level, so-called hidden small decisions. But at the end of the day, we often miss their bigger impact on the big picture. It's so easy to add complexity to whatever we do. Simple is what we are after. And truly competent people, whether they work in the public or private sector, understand the fine line between too little and too much. Using the t-shirt example, if I decided that I need new workout t-shirts, my old ones are smelly and they look bad and they are all covered in holes and whatnot. So I go to a store, I have 10 t-shirts in my closet, and I decide to buy 5 more. Am I better off having 15 t-shirts in my closet, or should I get rid of at least 5 if I bought 5 new ones? I would argue that in terms of keeping the complexity or simplicity at the same level, whenever we buy something new, we should get rid of the old stuff. This sounds pretty self-evident, right? But not necessarily so when it comes to the public sector. And this is how it gets tied back to my business. So I've been active in real estate in the United States and here in Finland. And I oftentimes deal with the city official, whether they are building inspectors or architects or people who are involved in that public sector type of a job. And one of the biggest issues we seem to have is that oftentimes people who come from the public sector don't necessarily understand the definition of complexity that well. Using the t-shirt example, in their case, the pile gets higher and higher. So first you have 10, then you have 15, then you have 20 t-shirts. What ends up happening is that then you don't even find the 5 good ones in your closet because you have so much clutter, so much bureaucracy, and so much extra fat in there. And this is what I have to deal with when it comes to applying for a building permit or now getting a special zoning permit to add buildable square footage to a piece of land that I'm developing. So I have two active projects, one where I'm waiting for a building permit, and the other one, like I just mentioned, the buildable piece of land that we intend to increase its value by getting more buildable square footage on the lot. And in both cases, the people I deal with on the city side are delaying the process, adding requirements, adding complexity without necessarily fully understanding that it delays my schedule, the complexity goes up, and the cost is going through the roof. But I would argue that we don't get any better product. We don't get any efficiencies out of the system. It would be a different story if by adding all these requirements, it would yield something positive as well. And before we throw all public sector employees under the bus, that's not my intention here. Quite the opposite. We need to understand how these people are incentivized. In the private sector, the risk-reward ratio balance is oftentimes in pretty good shape. Whereas on the public sector, it's lopsided, actually one-sided. The reward is missing. It's asymmetric, meaning these people are incentivized not to make mistakes. Therefore, delaying or adding requirements just to make sure that they are safe is always in their favor. And this results in complexity, added cost, and delays. That is very hard for a small business owner or an entrepreneur to understand and necessarily communicate with the public sector representatives. And this particular item this week made me think a lot about micro and macro level decisions. So I guess the lesson I'm drawing out of this is that we need to be super careful when we add complexity, when we add requirements. I would welcome a rule that every time we pass a new law, we add a requirement or we add complexity, we also need to be competent enough to get rid of at least one, maybe preferably even two, just to make sure that the total package is still manageable. Yes, requirements have to change. The world around us is evolving all the time, and we get better, we know more. So it's called getting better, development, adjusting to the new world. That is what we all should be doing, but not at the expense of adding complexity and bureaucracy. So competence in this case means that we have the courage to remove and get rid of all requirements. It's a fine line between too little and too much. And truly competent people, whether they work in the private sector or in the public sector, know enough so that they can, with confidence, say that these are the old requirements we no longer need. How am I dealing with this, coping with this? I just have to communicate and be patient. So impatience with actions, patience with results. There's no other way. That was my topic number one. Going to topic number two. One of my favorite topics called ignorance debt. The cost of not knowing what you don't know. When we're starting something new, whether it's a business or a job or a new hobby, there are plenty of assumptions we typically make in the beginning. We listen to somebody and we think we know what we are doing. But it isn't until later in our careers, maybe a year, 5 or 10 years later, when we truly understand that, okay, when I started, I didn't really understand anything. It's called the ignorance debt. And we all need to pay down our ignorance debt one way or the other. And you can do it in two ways, with money and with time. Money means that you hire other people to teach you, assuming you are coachable and you're receptive to information coming from other people. And with time, you learn by doing. It takes longer. Typically, typically the best results come when we combine the two. So we use coaching, mentoring, and we learn by doing as well. So again, tying this back to my personal life, I have mentioned in this channel that I'm pivoting my entrepreneurial career. I've done real estate extensively, and in the future I will probably do less real estate and I will do more something else. Keeping focus in mind is the key there. And I started doing these social media videos and started to build my brand and build a legacy for my kids in terms of passing my learnings almost 4 months ago. And I made a promise that I would document my life. And there I have mentioned in these videos several times that I have mostly paid down my ignorance debt, I believe, in real estate. And the push versus pivot topic is really, really crucial to understand. So for me personally, it's been always easier to push in terms of pivot. So I have felt, real talk, that if I pivot too easily, I give up. And I don't want to be the one who gives up too easily. I'm stubborn, and I oftentimes try to bang my head against the brick wall for too long until I realize that, okay, it's not necessarily going to work out that way. But like any other thing in life, all decisions have a price. And this quality, this personal quality, has its ups and downs, pluses and minuses. And now when I started thinking about the ignorance debt, I mostly paid down my ignorance debt in real estate. And now this pivot that I've done with my building a brand and doing these social media things, I'm at the outset. I'm in my early steps when it comes to learning this. And the other day I looked back at my notes from a year ago, and it's funny what I wrote down. I had these very tactical little things, how to position my text and pictures and how it would look visually good on Instagram and all that. And I'm like, started laughing last night, when I read about it, and I was like, I didn't have a clue. And after 4 months, more, better, new, so doing more volume first to get better, I realized that yes, my visuals are bad, but it's not the first priority. My first priority is to get better by increasing volume, to be more comfortable in front of the camera and make sure that my content adds value to people. Because if this, what I talk about here, adds no value to anybody, then there's no point doing this. So 4 months in, I'm in the early steps of paying down my own ignorance debt. And it's sometimes frustrating too. And I have this push versus pivot battle inside my own head all the time, where I question whether I made the right decision. Yes, I follow my intuition, but at the same time, I have to convince myself on a daily basis that yes, it's okay to be early, and it's okay to start and be bad at something in the beginning. And then you get better. But then I know myself that well that this is also the time that I enjoy the most, when you're building something, when you really are not yet comfortable. You are not in your comfort zone, quite far from it. And then it gets better over time. So I need to remind myself that this is the time I need to enjoy to the max, because I can't get it back until I then pivot again. And knowing myself, I won't be pivoting that easily. So this was the recap of my first week that I have officially documented here on my channel. This is the week that started on Monday, July the 8th. And I will talk to you guys again a week from now. Again, thank you for watching. And if you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. Also, please leave your comments. I would be interested in hearing what you think. Thanks, and until next time.